22. Here's the first lecture in the next unit. So in front of you, you see a list of identities that you need to memorize to be able to be successful in this unit. So the top ones up here are familiar. They're called the reciprocal identities. And these are those reciprocal functions that we've been looking at, like sine and its reciprocal function cosecant, which we know is made of those reciprocal side ratios, and that's why they're named that, right? So hopefully this top section up here is not very surprising to you, but we do use them quite a bit. So make sure you memorize your reciprocal identities here. One of the most important groups that we need to memorize here are these quotient identities. So we need to, if you memorize tangent and know that cotangent is its reciprocal, then you don't really need to memorize both of them. Remember, so tangent is opposite over adjacent, and so sine is made of opposite, so that's the top function there, and cosine is created from the adjacent side. So we still do have that O over A relationship, so TOA is one way to memorize this, but we need to memorize that tangent is equal to sine of theta over cosine of theta. And then, if we know that cotangent is the reciprocal function of tangent, then we're just going to reciprocate that relationship, put cosine on the top, and we'll put sine there on the bottom. So it's the A over O instead. Okay, so we got to memorize those. We use them quite a bit. These next ones are called the Pythagorean identities, and you can see that they are all built off of Pythagorean's theorem of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We know that c squared in our world is the hypotenuse of the triangle, so it's not surprising that we see all these ones hanging out, like so. So we get 1, and there's a 1, and there's a 1, and that's because 1 squared is 1, right? So that's the radius squared is what you're seeing on all those. The most important one to memorize here is going to be this first one right here. Sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1. We use this one quite a bit. If you notice down below here, we just have different versions of it. Like in this one, all we've done here is we've taken this cosine and we've subtracted it from both sides, right? So same with down here. This is just another version of it where instead we've subtracted the sine squared of theta. We've subtracted that from both sides. So really, if you memorize this top one, you'll be good. But you have to memorize this one up here. You have to memorize this, or it's going to be bad. This is like almost on every single problem. Okay. These other ones, if you memorize this one right here, you kind of get the one next to it for free. So if you memorize 1 plus tangent squared is equal to secant squared, if you have that memorized, then all you have to do is everything. So 1, so there's the 1 plus tangent squared. So instead call it cotangent squared. And that equals secant squared, which instead you could call cosecant squared. So if you memorize 1 plus tangent squared theta equals secant squared theta, you just everything to memorize this one, which is 1 plus cotangent theta equals cosecant theta. Okay, so you need to memorize all of those. So basically, everything up above this line, and I'll reset that, but everything up above this line you need to memorize because we're going to repeatedly use those. These cofunction identities down here, we'll have a cheat sheet ready, but I don't need you to memorize these, but we will, I'll teach you how to use these later on. But for now, let's focus on memorizing the reciprocal identities, the quotient identities, and the Pythagorean identities. The most important ones are this tangent equals sine over cosine, and sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. All right, thanks. Email me if you need any help here.